Have you been desiring to learn about emerging technologies? Have you been desiring to become tech savvy? Have you been desiring to become a programmer? Then you're on the right channel. Today we bring you yet another amazing video on how you can develop a simple Java project that is connected to a database. As you navigate through this video, you are going to get some requisite skills on both programming and database applications. This video is meant for people who have a basic understanding of Java. However, if you don't have a basic understanding of Java, worry not, because in this channel, we have some more videos about Java, which I'm going to share in the description below. So remember to subscribe, share this video, and like it, and also share your comments in the comment section below so that you can be able to address them. Welcome. Java has been one of the top programming languages for quite a long period of time because of its versatility and capabilities, especially when it comes to development of web applications, desktop applications, and even Android applications, or what you can simply call mobile phone applications. However, quite a number of people desire to learn Java, and they struggle a lot when it comes to connecting a Java interface, that is a graphical user interface, to a database application. Therefore, in this video, I'm going to show you a step-by-step process that you can undertake when you want to connect your Java application to a background or to a back-end database. So we are going to develop a very simple application, and we will start by first creating a new project. When you get to this interface, you are provided with quite a number of options that you can choose. All these come with their own capabilities and limitations, but for beginners, let us just go with the My Event project. Then you click Java application, then you click next. So over here, you come and give your project a name. Maybe we can call it project 2024 because that is the year we are in. Then you can navigate to where specifically you would like to save it. Personally, I like to save it here. So then I can click finish, and my project is going to be created. So by default, Java is going to create you a basic class over here. You can be able to see the package, we can see the class name, we can see the main method and an output statement. So do not delete this one, let it remain as is. So come here where your project has been created and go to where you have this particular source package. Click on the source package, go to where you have this project name, and then click here where you have the project name, right click, and then you go to new, then select JFrame form. After you select JFrame form, this is the one that allows you to create graphical user interfaces. It comes with swing controls. That is for the modern day NetBeans. I'm using the NetBeans 22 version and also JDK 22. I know in other versions of NetBeans, there used to be the AWT package and it was very useful, but the swing components are actually superior than the AWT components. So come here and give it a name. Maybe I can call it fast app. Can call it all app. Let's just call it app 101 like that. That is a quite simple but useful name. Then after calling it app 101, you're going to find this frame. The JFrame form will be created for you here. And over here you have your swing components starting with containers, controls, menus, and so on. I'm going to create an entire video to discuss each of these components and how you can be able to use them. So hang around for that particular video. For the time being, let us first focus on the objective of this video, which is to create a simple graphical user interface application and connect it to a back-end database. So to start with, take a panel, which is a container, and a container basically means that it can accommodate other types of components within it. So place your panel there. You can also extend your frame a little bit. Just extend your frame a little bit like that. And then we have our panel there. Now come here, pick a label, put your label there. And now you can come and edit the text of this label. Maybe we can just call it something like ID. I call it ID. We can come and increase the font size. So we go to properties. Then we go to here, we have the font, set it to bold, and we set it to font 18 for purposes of visibility. Now we can copy this, Control C, Control V, then you drag it and you put it there. Once you drag it and you put it there, go to edit text and change this one to name. All right. Now where we have name, Control C, Control V, If you're not so good at copying, you can just come back here and select a label again and go through the format process again. However, that will consume a lot of time. That's why personally I prefer to copy. I'm a computer scientist who likes using shortcuts. So we have the name and have something like address here. Then Control C, Control V. After the address, we can have what we call contacts. So we can come here and we have contacts like that. Now we are good. So those are the labels. We have our labels there. So let's come back here and pick a text field for purposes of allowing us to insert this information into our project. So we come and pick a text field and we place it there, enlarge it to your desired size, then edit text, remove that text that is there, because basically when we execute the project we expect it to be empty so that we can feed it with whatever we want to feed it with. Then let's also adjust the font. So right click, go to properties, where you have the font, change the font to maybe bold and also 18 for purposes of visibility. So Control C this one and Control V for purposes of copying and pasting. So repeat that for all the other labels that we have, like that. Or this one, just put this one down here like that. So Control C, Control V. Good. And there we have our simple interface looking like that. So now, by default, whenever you drag a swing component from the plate over here and you put it where we have the JFrame form or where we have our panel, it is usually assigned a variable name. So Java by default will always assign it. If it's a text field and is the first one, it will be assigned J text field 1, and you can be able to see it here. If it's a label, it will be assigned J label 1, the second one will be J label 2, and so on. However, now when you are programming, it becomes very difficult for you to remember these names. So it is important that you change the variable names to a name that you can desire. So come here and change the variable name and call this one ID underscore txt like that. Come here again, change this variable name and you call it name underscore txt like that. Then you come here, change this variable name and you call it address underscore txt like that. Come here, change this one, change the variable name and you call it contacts underscore txt like that. And there we are good. So now with that one, the only other thing that we need is a combination of buttons for purposes of adding, updating, deleting, and also fetching records. So come here and pick a button, place it there, edit the name, edit the text, and we can call this one add like that. Then we can come here where we have the properties and we change the font size to our desired font. We have 18. Then we can click close. So we can copy this button around like that. Copy and move it around. So come here and change this one. Edit text, change this one to update. Change this one to delete. And change this one to fetch or retrieve, or whatever name you want to give your button. You can give it whatever name that you desire. And now there we go, we have our interface looking like that with our buttons over there. So the next thing that we need to do now is to take this interface and we connect it to a database. So we need to take the interface and connect it to our ideal database for purposes of allowing us to insert information to this database, to this interface. Once we click, we add information to this interface, or we populate the interface, and then we click either of these buttons, their respective roles are performed. For example, if we populate information and we click add, the data is added to a database. So now move ahead, open your database management system. Personally, I'm using XAMPP. So I'm going to open XAMPP. This is XAMPP. Then come over here and you start the Apache and you start MySQL. Once you are done with that, click on admin. So if you click on admin, it is going to open for you the admin interface of your WAMP server. This is also the admin interface of my WAMP server. Once it opens the admin interface for you, you can be able to see the various databases that you have created yourself. If you'd like to create a new database, you can just come over here, click new and create a new database. If you had already created a database that is existing, you can go ahead and use the one that is existing. So to start with, I'll just come here, I click new. Once I click new, I'm going to create a new database, and this database, I'm going to call it project 2024, like that. I'm going to call it project 2024. Remember, you can also use SQL for purposes of creating this new database. Sometimes working with SQL is a little bit easier than working with the interface, because sometimes XAMPP may bring issues when you are working with the interface. So if you can be able to work with a SQL, the better. So this one, we can call it table 1, and it has 4 columns, because from our interface we can also see that we only need 4 columns. So there we are good. So just click create, and here you're provided now with an opportunity to create your so once the table, once you click create table, you're going to get this interface. So populate each of these columns. So you have ID set as variable character, the length is 20, name, variable character, and so on. So populate each of these. Then you need to set up a primary key. So come here where you have the null IDEs and select ID as your primary key. Here just click go, like that. And then you can come here and you click save. So it should work for us. And now we can see we have our table over there. So now that we already have our table, please do not forget the table name. Neither should you forget the name of your project, because these are the ones that we are going to use in the interface when you want to connect to the interface. So let's go ahead now back to NetBeans and connect to the interface. Connect the interface to the database. So I have first created a series of codes, because it involves a lot of codes for this connection, so that it makes our work a little bit easier, and it makes our video a little bit shorter and consumable. I'm going to share all the codes in the GitHub, and I'll put the link for that GitHub in the description of this particular video. So you can just go to the description section and you're able to get this code, this notepad, you're going to get it there, as well as the entire project and the files in that particular GitHub repo that I have created. So the very first thing that we do is that now in our project over here, we come to where you have project files. You can see this pom.xml. I know in older versions of NetBeans, we used to download the JDBC, and then would come and add JDBC where we have the dependencies as part of the libraries. But with the newer versions of NetBeans, we go to where we have the pom.xml. Then we have this section where you have properties. Put your cursor there and click enter. Then come and copy this dependencies code. Just copy this dependencies code as is. You come and you paste it over there. Make sure that all open tags are closed, and then once you are done, you need now to build this project. So to build the project, come and click on this hammer with a brush. It's known as clean and build. So you clean and build your project. So it may take some time. This one depends on how fast your computer is, and you need internet connection, so that if you had not done this before, it needs to download the requisite JDBC libraries and files. So please make sure that you are connected to the internet, and you can see that mine was successful. So that now gives me a chance to go ahead and do the other stages of the project. So now that I'm done with that, I can close this pom.xml. Now I work with this one that I have over here. So I have currently I'm in the design interface, or in the design tab. So I click on source. Once I click on source, I can be able to see quite a number of things. You can see the package, you can see where the project is invoked, and you can see the automatically generated code over here. It's quite a lot. If you are not using a good IDE, you would have to write this code yourself, but here it is automatically generated for us. So now we're interested in this particular section. So in this section, what I want us to do is that we go back to the file or the notepad that I have shared in our GitHub repo, and we copy the first function that is there. You can see this one known as the first function, this one over here. So just come here and you copy it as is up to that point. So you come and you paste it here, and then explain what the function is about. So once you copy it, of course, it will require you to add some importations. So just click on this bulb over here, add import for Java SQL, then come to where you have J option pane, add import for Java option pane, then come here, add import for Java SQL Manager, then come here and add an import for Java SQL exemption. So the purpose of this code is basically to help us connect the interface to the SQL database that we have already created. That is why we are creating a function which is known as get connection, that is basically using an exemption handler, which is the try catch exemption block, to try and communicate with the JDBC driver. Remember, we said that the JDBC, which stands for Java Database Connector, is the driver that we use to connect to the SQL database. So it will first try to check if you have the requisite JDBC. That is where we have gone first and created the dependency so that the requisite JDBC can be downloaded for us. If it does not find the requisite JDBC, it will give you a class not found exemption. That is to mean that you have not created your dependency properly. Then after finding the JDBC, it will try to connect to SQL, and in trying to connect to SQL or the database that we created, it will use this function that we have over here, driver manager.getConnection. Then it will navigate through the JDBC, MySQL, localhost meaning that it is in this machine. Then that 306 is the port number for SQL. Now our project is project 2024, so change this one here, project 2024. Change it to project 2024, or whatever project name that you have given yours. And I insist, please make sure that you change this one to whatever name that you have assigned to your project. Then we have the root to mean that you want to take the entire database as it is. Then these double quotation marks, we're supposed to put a password here, but because we don't have a password in our database, then we don't need it here. We can just work with it the way it is. So if, for example, here you make reference to the wrong project, then it's going to give you an SQL exemption. If for whatever reason even the database does not exist, then it's going to give you an SQL exemption. So it is important that you make sure that you put this first function where it is supposed to be. Now we go to the second function, and the second function now is a universal function that is supposed to help us in creating SQL queries, because we are going to create queries for inserting, deleting, updating, and so on. Rather than us keeping on calling individual codes for purposes of this, we can create a single function that will tell us whether the execution was complete or not. So just come and copy this second function that we have over here as is. So Control C. Then you come and put it just below where we have the first function. So check if there's anything that needs to be imported. Yes, we need to import prepared statement. We also need, we have already imported our prepared statements. So we check what else may need to be imported. Check for curly braces. Sometimes curly braces can be an issue. So check that all curly braces have been closed as desired. So just go ahead and check for all the braces. If you find that yours is still having an error here, just go to where we have the imports, navigate up here, you come and comment out this one, and you write a new line here, import java.sql.statement. So make sure that you use this one, or you can just, the one that has already been imported, you can just add .statement at the end, but this one is the most ideal one. So if you find that your braces are okay, but the function is still giving you an error, then you can go and check that importation. Then over here, these ones you can ignore them. It means that they are not currently used, but we are going to use them as we move along. Now the next thing that we need to do is now to work on this add button. We need to insert data. So to work on it, you just right click on it, then you go to events, then we go to action performed, and over here we need to insert a code that is going to help, or we need to paste a code or put a code that is going to help us insert our data into this SQL database. So I'll go back to this file that I've given you. I said this file is very essential. So I'll copy the code that is over here, and I'll come and paste it there. So once I paste this code, let me explain what the code is about. So here we are creating a string which is known as SQL. And the string that we are creating here, its purpose is to insert data into a database. And we're inserting data into a table because it uses the SQL syntax. So we go with insert into, then the table name. The table is, our table name is table 1. If we go to where we had created our table, we can be able to see it here. The table name is table 1. So make sure that the table name aligns with what you have in your database. Then identify the columns: ID, name, address, and contacts. So go to your database and check if those are the columns that you have, including the spelling, because if the spelling is okay, it's going to give you an error. Then values that you want to insert. Now, if this was a SQL or SQL, then here we would have put the values inside brackets and inside quotation marks, the actual values. But since here we are connecting an interface to database, we want to capture our values from the interface that we have over here. So for the value where the ID is, we want it to come from this text field. For the value where the name is, we want it to come from this text field. For the value where address is, we want it to come from here. And for the value where contacts is, we want it to come from this particular text field. That is why when we come to values, we come here and use a plus sign for concatenation. Now you open a curly brace here and use another concatenation sign. You refer to the specific variable name of your text field, like this one. You can see this one is id.txt. And once you refer to this particular variable name, you use a method known as getText to capture the value that is inputted in that particular text field. Once you have used that method, use a plus sign for purposes of concatenation. Then make sure that all quotation marks that are open are closed. And you can see the pattern here. You start with a single quotation followed by double quotation, plus sign, the name of your text field, then the text method, a plus sign for concatenation, close the double quotation, close the single quotation, put a comma, then another, open a single quotation, a double quotation, a plus sign for concatenation, the variable name of the next text field which holds the name, then the method getText to capture the value, then a plus sign for concatenation, put double quotation, put a single quotation, a comma, and you do like that for all the fields that we have until you get to where we have this last closing parenthesis and the last closing quotation mark, and you terminate. So once you're done with that, you are ready to execute your project, but you'd like to know if actually it has executed successfully. So we created a function known as execute SQL query, which is this function that we have over here, which is our second function. So we come and call the function, and you can see in this function, we pass two primary arguments. The first one is string query, the other one is string message, meaning that we expect to put the query that we want to execute here and the message that we want to give if the query execution is successful. So we just come here and call the method. Now the string that we want to execute for the query is this one that we are calling string SQL, which is basically the string that we're using to insert data into our table. Now the message that we want to give people is that the record has been added successfully, so that people can know, or the user can know, if that particular record has been added successfully. So now the next thing that we need to do is to go ahead and test if this one is working properly. So to test if it is working properly, go to where we have the project. You can see the project. Navigate to where we have the name of this project. You can see it's app 101. So just come here, right click on this one, then click on run file. Click on run file. You can see it is running. So just come here and you put the values for, so for the ID, we can just give it maybe ID 123. The name, we can say maybe it's John. Address, we can say that it is 75 NRB. Then for contacts, we can just put some random numbers. We're just testing. So then you click add. You can see data added successfully. So data added successfully, successful. So there's a repetition here. We need to fix this one, but it has been added successfully. And then you can just click OK. Also important to note is that this one is appearing here at the top left corner, but would like it to appear at the center. So we are going to see how we can fix that. So to start with, and also importantly, we can see that after we have finished adding, these fields are not cleared. They still have the data. So if you want to add a new data, you may need to come and erase each one of them individually. So we are going to see how you can also erase. So as soon as you are done with adding, you erase the data. So first and foremost, let's first close this one. Once we close it, we go to our database. This is our database. Check if that record has been added, and if you click on browse, you can see the record has been added successfully, so we are good. So let's go ahead and fix now the issues that we have seen. So we start with the first one. Let's put it at the center. Let's put everything at the center. So we just come here. We can see public app 101 int components. So you just come here and you say set location relative to null, like that. So that should put it at the center. So click save, run the file again. So let's see, yeah, there we are good. So that is one problem solved. This one, set location relative to null. Then we go to the next problem, and we see how we can fix it. We see how we can fix it. Now we can see that in this function we have put it that if it goes successfully, we say j option show message dialog data plus a message, then plus successful. So we don't want to interfere with this one. This message is what we can interfere with. And where is this message coming from? This message is coming to the specific SQL query. It is the one that we have added over here. So in this message, I can just come and modify it like this. So I remove successfully, I just remain with added. Now if I click save, can come here, run the file again. Then we can say 124 is another record. This one can be Jane. This one is address maybe 75 NRB. Let's assume they share the same address, or NBO, sorry, that's the international code. Contacts, you can put any contacts that you desire. Now you can see data added successful because we have fixed the message issue. Then you can click OK. Now we're only remaining with one issue. We need to clear these fields as soon as we are done adding the data. So to do that, you just come here and write ID underscore txt ID underscore txt dot set text, set it to null, and make sure that you have put it below the execute SQL query. So then you say name underscore txt dot set text, and then you set this one to null also. Then you come here and say address underscore txt dot set text, then make sure that you also set this one to null, and then finally contacts underscore txt dot set text, and then you can put this one null like that. So now if I save this one and I run the project again, let's see if all our edits are working. So 1 2 5, this one can be somebody like Hassan, can have Hassan here. Address can be maybe 21 Laden. Contacts and put just some random figures, and you can click add. Data added successful, and you can see. So now all our edits are working, and that is good. That's good progress. So if we go to our database and we click browse again, we can see all the three records have been added here. So that is good progress. Now the other thing that we need to do is to work on the update button. So to update a record, so we just come here, we go to events, action performed. Now we go to the file that we have in our repo. This is the update file. So we come here and we select this one, Control C, Control V. Then after we are done with that, we can come and check if there is any error. And because we still want, after we are done with update, the fields are cleared, so copy this one to clear the fields. Control C, Control V, put it there. Now let us look at one record from the database. Let's take this one where we have John. We can see the address is 75 NRB. Why don't we change this address from 75 NRB to 75-NBO? So let's go ahead and do that. So run file. So here we have our interface. So ideally, you'd want that once you type the ID here, it populates the other fields for you. We have not yet done that, but we are going to do it in this video. So for the time being, let us first populate each and every field ourselves. But in the next stages, we are going to see how you can use the ID to fetch the records and populate the other fields that we have over here. So you can just come here and look at John's ID. It's 123. The name is John. So you go to where we have our program 123. The name we still want to retain John. The address is the one that we want to change from 75 NRB 75 NBO. Then we would like to retain the same contact 7882. So 7882 like that. Then you can click update and you can see data record updated successfully. So now if I close this one and I browse the database again, you can see now it has been updated to NBO. So that one is okay. We are moving on very smoothly. We are moving on very well, which is commendable. So the next button that we need to work on is this delete button. This one is used to delete a record. So you just come here, right click on it, then you go to event, action performed. And once you go to action performed, we come here and we copy our code to delete. This is the code. Deleting is quite simple. It's the SQL code. I don't want to go into the details of explaining the SQL code here because I really don't want the video to be extremely long. I want it to be short for purposes of the audience's consumption and for purposes of ease of consumption. I'll create an entire video on SQL and you can go ahead and watch it. So here we use delete for purposes of deleting. So delete from table 1. Here we set a condition. So the condition that we desire to use here is the primary key, and our primary key is the ID, and you're obtaining our ID from id.getText. So save this one. Let's go to our database and pick on one record. Let's say, for example, we want to delete the record with Hassan. Let's delete the record with Hassan. The ID is 125. So we can just come here, run the application, run the file. So we're waiting for it to run. So come here, put the ID 125, then you click delete, and you can see data record deleted successfully, and there you are. You'd also want that once you have deleted, the fields are cleared, but of course here you're only interested with one field, which is ID_txt. So you just come and put it down there and save your work. Go back to the database, browse it again, and you can see Hassan is gone. The record has been deleted successfully. So now, having done that, it seems that now we are done with updating and deleting records from our database. So let's now go ahead and look at how we can make this application much easier to use, such that I can just come here and type the ID, and once I'm done typing the ID and I click fetch, these other fields are populated, so that if, for example, I want to update something, it is much easier for me to update. If I want to know the details of somebody, it's much easier for me to know the details of that particular person by just knowing their ID. I just need to know their ID and I can fetch all the other records. So to do that, we need to write a function to fetch the records, and this is how we are going to do it. So go to the notepad that I've provided you with and copy this method. You can even copy the comment. Remember, if you are unable to use the notepad, you can just go to the GitHub repo and copy the code. You can actually clone this project, and once you clone this project, you can be able to use it as is for purposes of you learning. So we go to source, where we have the source. We navigate to where we put our second method over here. Then just below it, we put this, our third method, which we are going to use to fetch records from a database. Now you can see that there are some things we need to import, such as prepared statements. So just come here and add an import to prepared statements, and just come here and add an import to result sets. Maybe just to explain what this method is doing, the method name is search record. What it is doing is that it is we expect it to be using the value, the ID inputted in the ID underscore txt field, which is the field that we have over here, and then it uses that to retrieve records from a database. So we first define the first variable, which is string ID, and assign it a value which is id.txt dot id underscore txt dot get text. Then we call the get connection method, which is the method that we created here as the first method to connect to the database. After we call the get connection method, it establishes the connection between this interface and the database. So if we had not created that method, then we will not be able to work with this one. Then we import prepared statements and we import result sets. This is because data in a database is usually stored in form of a two-dimensional array. Now, when you want to fetch this data that is in a database, SQL will usually return it as either a prepared statements or result sets, or even a combination of both. That's why we are using prepared statements here and result sets. Especially when you are dealing with Java interface, you need to use the two. Now we come here and initialize our exemption handler, a try-catch block. So the first thing that we do is to write our SQL query. So select asterisk, asterisk means all columns from table 1 where ID is equal to question mark. Now here we have set a condition where ID is equal to question mark, but we know very well that our ID we want it to be the value that is inputted in this particular text field. Then we create a variable known as PST is equal to the connection and connection.prepare statements. That is the connection that we created to prepare the statements for it, taking into consideration this query as the argument. Now, the prepared statement, you set the various strings that are required in it, such as the condition, which is the ID condition, and then you go ahead and you have your result set. Remember, we called result set here. Now after you have prepared the statements, you need to return them as result sets. So the result set rs is equal to this prepared statement dot execute query. Remember, we had created another method here known as execute query for executing our SQL queries. So dot execute query. Now you come here and say if result set dot next, if result set dot next, then what do you need to do? Populate your text fields. Name underscore txt dot set text is equal to that. Address underscore txt dot set text is equal to result set dot get string. So from the result set, extract the string that has the address. Then for the contacts, extract the string that has the contacts. Else, if that record does not exist, give an output message saying that the record is not found. Then you can catch any exemption that you might find along the way, and you are going to give a message which is error while retrieving the data from the database and so on. Then you can go ahead and close your result set, close your prepared statement, and close your connection. It is important for you to do that so that they are released from memory. Now, if you encounter any error there, you can also give a message that there was an error when trying to close that particular connection. So then we can go ahead and test our project and see if it is okay. But before we can test it, remember, we are going to use this button to fetch the records. So what we need to do now is that we need to come here and copy this method that we have created. We have called it search record. This method that we have created, we need to call it. So just copy the method, go to where we have the fetch button, right click, go to events, action, action performed. Then over here, just come and paste that method over there. So what this simply means is that once I click on that button, it is going to call the method which is search record, Now I can come to my project, I run the project. So remember, as it is getting heavier, the longer it is taking to execute. So now I can come here, maybe I can just look at my database and maybe pick 123. So 123 and then fetch. You can see once I click fetch, it populates this field for me. Let me now pick another one like 124 and click fetch. You can see. So now at least if I really wanted to do an update, it can now become a little bit easier. Let's say, for example, I just wanted to update something about Jane. I wanted to update something about Jane. Instead of typing Jane's record here, once I run the project, I just need to know the Jane's ID is 124. So I can just come here, run the file. So I'm trying to run the file now. Run the file, then put 124, and then I can click fetch the records for me. So it will fetch the records. And if perhaps I wanted to update this one, maybe I wanted to add a new number there, I can just update like that, and the record is updated successfully. So this is a very simple project that you can be able to work on. It is very easy for us to work on. And now, in the next phase of this project, what I'm going to do is to show you how now you can be able, instead of just retrieving and populating it here, how about you are able to use a table. You can have a table so that the records are put somewhere in a table that you can be able to see, a table that you can be able to easily click, and it populates the fields on this other end. So keep yourself tuned to this channel. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to this channel. We keep on posting a lot of content about anything to do with technology, from programming all the way up to emerging technologies. And therefore, if you want to learn more about how you can be able to create the next project, which is putting a table to this particular interface and connecting that particular table to the database for purposes of making the work easier, then hang on this particular channel, and we are going to give you that particular video. It's going to come out shortly. Remember to share, subscribe, and like this video. Thank you. See you in the next video, and all the best in your programming journey.